Hey guys, it's me, Sandra. Here's that kid that's all over the news talking about the Florida shooting, okay? He's being interviewed. It says, great interview today with Congressman Ted Deutch. Thanks to blah, 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 for your help. In other words, this interview about the shooting was pre-recorded.
Policies. As I mentioned from the start, we build our products for all of our users from all political stripes around the globe. The long-term success of our business is directly related to our ability to earn and maintain the trust of our users.
I'm afraid I don't know about that. I could have our team follow up.
If you could just follow up on that and get back to us, we would appreciate it. I represent Parkland, Florida.
Here we have Mr. Deutch interviewing David Hogg. And once I found that video there was plenty of other people that found that. And that thing lit across YouTube for about a good day, maybe day and a half. And they found it somewhere, trying to plug the holes to stop it from spreading everywhere. And they did it. They did a really good job, and I'll bet Deutch was just literally shitting his pants, knowing that he had been busted interviewing David Hogg 3 weeks before this event happened.
I represent Parkland, Florida. And in this discussion of social media, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the savage attacks on the student survivors of Stoneman Douglas. One of the most virulent strains of these attacks was that the students didn't survive a school shooting, that they were crisis actors, that they were planted by some mysterious cabal to finally get Congress to do something about gun violence. And in the weeks after the shooting, Alex Jones's YouTube channel posted a video that was seen by 2.3 million subscribers, alleging that these were merely that these were actors and not real students who had experienced the most horrific thing anyone could possibly imagine. He launched similar attacks against the families whose 6- and 7-year-old kids were slaughtered at Sandy Hook. And he's not the only one. Truthers have spread these lies, claiming that Sandy Hook never happened at all.
Thank you for the question. So as you noted, when Alex Jones posted the video you described saying that the survivors of the Parkland massacre were crisis actors, that violated our harassment policy. We have a specific policy that says if you say a well-documented violent attack didn't happen and you use the name or image of survivors or victims of that attack, that is a malicious attack and it violates our policy. In terms of conspiracy theory content generally, our goal is to promote authoritative content to our users. So we have two principles that guide the way here. That's the first one, is we want to provide users with authoritative, trustworthy information.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I only have a minute and a half, and I don't really need to hear what you're trying to provide. I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the earth is flat on YouTube. Where you see a lot of
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the earth is not flat.
Correct.
Okay.
Does it kind of make sense, like, how deep this goes? So all of these years learning all this truth just to get thrown out the window because nobody's got a backbone to stand up for truth, even when it's right in your face. So here we have Mr. Deutch asking questions, and I'll do a video later. But he is literally grilling, well, not grilling, because it was all staged anyway. The questions were staged with the YouTube exec. What do we define as conspiracy theorists? How are we going to put the strikes against them? Well, in his little speech to the YouTube lady, Juniper, he point blank says, oh, so school shootings such as Parkland. He says that to the lady on camera. Okay? And when she nods her head and says, yes, that would be considered a conspiracy. And in his mind, he knows that he's the one that set that whole thing up. Where he mentions the Parkland shooting as being a conspiracy theory, and people need to stop talking about it, which we kind of have, because the censorship on, you know, anything with David Hogg was a target, and nothing stuck for, they got it down to, you put something up and it was maybe a few minutes and it was gone. Everyone's getting strikes, everyone backed off. They did it perfect. Okay. Well, here we go. Tying flat earth into conspiracy theory next to the Parkland shooting.
I have a question, Ms. Bickert, for you. You recently decided not to ban InfoWars. Can you explain that decision? And do you use a strikes model like YouTube?
Congressman, we do use a strikes model. What that means is if a page or a profile or a group is posting content and some of that violates our policies, we always remove the violating posts at a certain point, and it depends on the nature of the content that is violating our policies. At a certain point, we would also remove the page or the profile or the group at issue.
So the question is, how many strikes does a conspiracy theorist who attacks grieving parents and student survivors of mass shootings get? How many strikes are they entitled to before they can no longer post those kinds of horrific attacks?
I want to be very clear that allegations that survivors of a tragedy like Parkland are crisis actors, that violates our policy, and we remove that content.